Alright, I'm going to replace the alternator on this 97 E350 here with the 5.4. That way I can get it going again and get this thing sold. Took this on trade, partial trade. Ran good and all that. Second time I drove it down the road, the alternator seized up on me, busted the belt. So your alternator is right there. So the first thing I'm going to do is take this intake work off of here so I can get to it. So this just pops out like that. Well, she kind of came out in pieces, but that gives you plenty of room right there, and this thing's still attached back here somewhere on this, so that's all the room I need. So before you mess with this thing, you want to disconnect your battery, because you have this positive lead running to the alternator and you will get zapped. Remove the negative cable and then the positive. When you reinstall, then you put your positive on first and then your negative, basically reverse order removal. Alright, so this thing's got really tiny mounting bolts, especially for a V8. Those look like little 10 millimeters. I'm used to seeing 1/2 inch and up. Anyways, need to disconnect. I guess the flashlight didn't really help that much. Disconnect everything from it before I unbolt it. Oh, this is going to be a two-handed thing. I got to get this popped off of here so I can get this positive line disconnected and these electrical connectors. So mine tore on me a little bit, but you just got to pop this rubber boot off and slip it back off so you can get to this nut here so you can detach this positive line. Alright, so that was just a 10 millimeter for me. You want to pay attention to the orientation that everything is on here. Sometimes there's one washer, sometimes there's like 10 fucking washers, so you want to make sure you put everything back on the way you came off. In this case, it's just the nut and the line, no washers. Okay, so there's that. You have to pull up on the bottom of this tab here so you can disconnect it, and it's kind of hard to get to down there. So what I did to make things much simpler was I just hooked my pick in there, pulled that tab out, and then while I was pulling it out with one hand, I was able to slip it up. There's not a whole lot of room to get a screwdriver or anything down in here with it plugged in this little corner here, so if you have a pick, that'll be a lot better. And then I just got to pull this thing out. Should just pop off. You really shouldn't pull from that wire. I'm going to see if I can get my needle nose on this and wiggle it off. So this has got a little tab in the back too there. You can see that slit where it separates. You got to get this tab on the back and pull back on it so you can slip this off, and I'm having trouble even getting my pick in there for that. It may be easier to unbolt the alternator first. That way you can get to these plugs from the back side where they plug in and unplug them. Just don't let the alternator hang down from them. Definitely try not to pull from that wire. You rip it off, then you're going to have even more of a headache and have to fix it. So it looks like there's 3 mounting bolts. You got one there, one on the other side, and then probably this right here attached to the bracket. And just like this nut, they are 10 millimeter. Alright, so my belt was broke, like I said, so I didn't have to remove the belt. But to remove the belt, so that you can take the alternator off, what you have to do on this tensioner arm here, it's a 1/2 inch drive. It's just a square hole. It's
1/2 inch drive.
You stick your ratchet or breaker bar or whatever in there. That's
1/2 inch.
Or you got
1/2 inch adapter.
On a 3/8 inch if you don't have
1/2 inch
stuff. And then, so you put it on your tensioner arm here. 3/4 inch drive.
Fucking 1/2 inch.
I'm not for certain which way it goes because my belt's broke and mine is seized up. So I've just learned that I need to replace the tensioner arm also. So I got to run to the parts store and go get that real quick.
Obviously turn it whichever way it goes away from the belt to relieve tension from the belt.
Alright, so it's 3 bolts. Couldn't see this one from the top. And then there's the 3/4 inch drive I was talking about to relieve the tension. Alright, here's the 2 bottom bolts, and your top one in that bracket there is that little tiny one. They were all 10mm for me. The alternator is loose now. Oop, there it goes. I wasn't sure if I had to remove that bracket to get it out, but it does not look like I need to. It just pulls right out. And there is one shitty alternator. Okay, got the new one installed. I just started this top bolt here first, a few turns. You want to leave it loose, that way you can wiggle this and get these other ones. This actually goes at a slight angle to where the top is tipped backwards. So initially they wouldn't line up. I had to pivot it a little bit. Snug them down good. If you want a torque spec, it's 18 foot-pounds of torque. The top one's 89 inch-pounds. That's an important lesson too. It doesn't really look like you can get caught on this one, but make sure you don't get any of your wires caught under the alternator while you're reinstalling it. Don't forget to slide this boot back over because it keeps that from corroding, and it will corrode because it's a positive. There we go. Now I'll plug this back in. Alright, sorry for the wind noise. It's been raining on me and shit, but I need to get this done. So, got it all plugged back in. Probably shouldn't have looped that wire around like that, but it'll be fine. Anyways, make sure it's plugged in all the way. The first few times I didn't get this plugged in all the way. I pulled up on it and it popped back out. So make sure you, both thumbs, once you get it lined up, snap it down real nice and hard and make sure it's not loose. Same with this one, because if any of these are loose, your alternator is not going to charge anything. So, now I got to run to the store and get that damn new tensioner so I can get my belt back on here and she'll be done. Alright, so again, 1/2 inch drive. And now that we got a new one on here that's not seized up, so let's get this belt on here. Thankfully I still have this sticker here that shows me how the belt routes. Alright, so what I'm doing is I already got it looped over the tensioner. Looped over the crank pulley, tensioner, alternators, looped over everything except for the fan pulley. It's looped over everything with that fan pulley there. It's going to be the easiest thing to slip it over, but it's kind of impossible to relieve your tension clear down there and also slip it over that at the same time. So you're really probably going to need somebody to relieve the tension while you slip that belt over that smooth pulley. Alright. Definitely needed a second hand there. You may be able to do it yourself if you push the tensioner all the way and then somehow ratchet or tie up your ratchet or breaker bar to keep the tension off. But otherwise, you're going to need someone to hold that open. Hold the tension off while you slip the belt over that fan pulley there. Alright, so now I'm going to reconnect the battery. So again, it's backwards for reconnect. Positive first, then negative. Tighten these back down. You should double check your belt though. Make sure the belt's over every pulley 100% of the way, not hanging off. You know, make sure it's engaged with all the teeth. Alright, get your air box back on here. It's a little bit of a chore. You got to get this thing has a lip that has to get under this, and then this part has a lip, and this, as you can see, it goes over it. And then you got a notch here you got to line up. Okay, and then you can spin this whole freaking clamp thing. Mine was too far down. I think when I took it off, it wasn't even locked properly, so I spun it up. That way I can properly lock the thing. That's pretty self-explanatory. Looks like you got a little lock there. Line up that peg that was there, slide it in, pivot it down, snap it back again. There you go. Now if my battery isn't dead, this thing should start right up, but it's probably dead.